I had been surviving almost entirely on caffeine and stubborn willpower for the last 4 months. Nights blurred into mornings, weekends disappeared behind spreadsheets and forecasts, and social plans became distant ideas I no longer entertained. Every ounce of that effort went into a single account, a client so large it had the power to reshape my entire professional trajectory. And finally, after everything I had poured into it, the work was finished. The client was ecstatic. The presentation had landed perfectly. The contract was signed without hesitation. But the real shock came afterward. I sat at my desk, staring at the email on my screen, reading it over and over as if it might vanish if I blinked. "Evelyn, you exceeded every expectation. This is a personal thank you. Enjoy the game." Attached was the confirmation: 2 Super Bowl tickets, 40-yard line, front row experience. My pulse thundered in my ears. I had never been to a Super Bowl in my life, and as someone who had followed football religiously since childhood, this felt unreal. My hands trembled as I printed the email, checking every detail twice. The client had sent the tickets to my boss, Robert Fowler, the firm's senior partner. That part made sense. He handled high-level client logistics. I pictured the moment clearly: him stepping into my office, offering one of his rare approving smiles, handing over the tickets with a short acknowledgement that I had earned them. That moment never happened. 3 days later, Robert walked into my office without knocking. His usual smug confidence seemed amplified, as if he fed on it. He leaned against my desk casually, like he owned the space, the air, the moment. "I heard you got some great news," he said. I smiled, assuming this was it. "Yeah, I really appreciate it. I gave everything to that project." He nodded, a hint of amusement flickering across his face. "You did, which is why I wanted to talk to you about the tickets." Something about his tone made my stomach tighten. "Okay," I said carefully. He sighed, performing concern. Clients don't always understand hierarchy. Sometimes they don't realize how these things work. When they gave those tickets, it was really a gift to the firm, not to you personally. My chest constricted. "No," I replied slowly, keeping my voice even. "The email clearly said they were a personal thank you." He waved that away dismissively. "In this business, we have to think strategically. I'll be taking the tickets." The room felt unsteady. "What?" I asked. "I already made arrangements." He smiled thinly. "I'm taking a potential investor. It's good for the company." Months of sacrifice flashed through my mind. "That's not right," I said, struggling to stay composed. "They were given to me." He smirked. "You should be grateful you still have a job. That's the real reward." He patted my desk like I was something obedient and insignificant. "You understand." I surprised myself then. I smiled. Not a genuine one, but the kind that hides sharp edges beneath it. "Enjoy the game," I said smoothly. He left looking satisfied, completely unaware of what he had just set in motion. The moment he was gone, my smile vanished. I clenched my fists under the desk, nails biting into my palms. I sat there breathing slowly, forcing myself not to react. Emotion would only cost me. Strategy was everything. I opened the client's email again, reading it with new clarity. Then I sent a message. "Thanks again for thinking of me with the Super Bowl tickets. Turns out they were given to someone else here." Less than a minute later, my phone buzzed. "Are you serious? Who took them?" I replied calmly. "Not sure. I never received them. No big deal." The response came instantly. "Those were meant for you. I'll handle this. Say nothing." From that point on, it wasn't me versus Robert. It was Robert versus the client. I spent the rest of the week quietly observing. Right on cue, I overheard Robert bragging in the break room about his 40-yard line seats and big connections. By Friday, the office buzzed with anticipation as he prepared to leave early for the game. "Big weekend?" I asked lightly. He smirked. "Just making moves." "Enjoy the game," I said, fully meaning it. Monday arrived. Robert strutted into the office late, sunglasses on, confidence radiating off him. At 9:30 a.m., the meeting invite appeared. Mandatory attendance. I walked into the conference room and felt the tension immediately. The client arrived, followed by a woman I didn't recognize. "Robert, this is Andrea Holloway, VP of Corporate Partnerships." The client smiled coldly. "Evelyn, did you enjoy the game?" Silence filled the room. "I didn't attend." His gaze hardened. "That's odd. I arranged those tickets personally for you." Robert stammered. Andrea leaned forward. "So you took a personal gift meant for an employee and reassigned it without authorization." The room tightened. The client leaned back. "I can't work with someone who undermines their own team." Robert was finished. The silence stretched across the conference room like a noose tightening around his throat. His face, usually smug and full of arrogant confidence, was now a shade of red teetering on the edge of panic. Andrea, the VP of Corporate Partnerships, leaned forward, folding her hands on the table, her voice smooth but laced with authority. "Robert, you do understand what this looks like." His Adam's apple bobbed as he swallowed. He understood. The client exhaled, shaking his head. "This isn't just about the tickets, Robert. It's about trust, about professionalism, about knowing that when I choose to work with someone, they're not going to screw over their own employees for personal gain." Robert's jaw clenched. His fingers twitched against the table. He looked around, searching for an ally, but there were none. The other senior partners, who had been silent until now, exchanged uncomfortable glances. No one wanted to be associated with this mess. I sat still, hands folded neatly in my lap. I didn't smirk. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The silence stretched, until finally Andrea spoke again. "Robert, did you expense anything related to this trip?" He blinked. She tilted her head slightly. "Did you charge the flight, the hotel, any meals, any transportation to the firm's account?" The answer in his eyes was enough.
The client chuckled under his breath, but there was no humor in it. "You used company funds to take someone else to the Super Bowl with the tickets meant for Evelyn." Robert tried to pull himself together. He sat up straighter, cleared his throat, and forced a thin smile. "Listen, I understand how this looks, but I was thinking about the firm. I was cultivating a relationship with a valuable investor." The client cut him off. "What investor?" Robert blinked. "Excuse me?" The client leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "Who exactly did you take to the game?" Robert's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Andrea tapped her fingers against the table. "Robert, answer the question." He hesitated, his mind scrambling for an excuse, for any way out of this hole. I already knew the truth. Robert hadn't taken an investor. He hadn't taken anyone important to the company. He'd taken his brother-in-law, a man with zero business connections, no potential deals, no reason to be at that game other than to drink overpriced beer and enjoy the best seats in the house. And Robert had expensed every penny. I could see it on his face, the realization that there was no way out. The client shook his head. Unbelievable. He turned to Andrea. "I want it noted that my firm will no longer be conducting business with Robert Fowler moving forward." Robert snapped his head up. "Wait, that's not—" The client continued as if he hadn't spoken. "If you'd like to assign a different senior partner to handle my account, I'm open to discussing that." He turned to me. "Or, quite frankly, I'd prefer to deal directly with Evelyn moving forward." I managed to keep my expression neutral, but inside I was screaming with satisfaction. Andrea nodded. "Understood." She tapped a few notes into her tablet. "Robert, we'll be handling this internally. I suggest you take the rest of the week off while we review the situation." Robert's face drained of all color. He opened his mouth to protest, but then he saw the expression on Andrea's face, on the client's face, on everyone's face. He was done. Finished. He stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor, and without another word stormed out of the room, the glass doors swinging shut behind him. The silence that followed was heavy. Finally, the client turned to me, his expression softened. "Evelyn, I want to apologize. I should have made sure you got those tickets personally." I shook my head. "You had no way of knowing. Honestly," I glanced at the door Robert had just walked through. "This worked out better." He chuckled. "I like the way you think." Andrea smiled, then slid a document across the table. "Evelyn, since you're already the one doing most of the work on this account, I'd like to formally offer you a promotion." My breath caught. A promotion? I stared at the document in front of me. Significant salary increase, more authority, a title that put me on par with the very people who had dismissed me before. I swallowed, lifting my gaze to meet hers. "Are you serious?" She smiled. "Absolutely. You've more than earned it." I exhaled, a slow grin spreading across my face. "Then I accept." The client stood, extending a hand. "Glad to hear it. And Evelyn, yes, next time I get Super Bowl tickets, they'll be sent directly to you." I laughed, shaking his hand. Robert thought he stole my reward. Instead, he handed me everything I ever wanted. And the best part? Monday was just getting started. By the time I walked back to my desk, the entire office was buzzing. People were whispering, side-eyeing me, side-eyeing Robert's empty chair in the corner office. News traveled fast in corporate circles. And when a senior partner stormed out of a conference room looking like he had just seen a ghost, people noticed. I sat down, trying to suppress the smirk tugging at my lips, as my inbox exploded with emails. Congratulations, messages of support, even a few shocked "what just happened" pings from colleagues who had only caught bits and pieces of the drama. Then a text from Robert. "Robert Fowler, what the hell did you do?" I stared at it for a second, before typing back, "Me? Not sure what you mean. I thought you were making moves." I waited. No response. Of course not. I let out a slow breath, glancing at the newly signed promotion letter on my desk. I had won, but Robert wasn't done with me yet. Robert's last move arrived an hour later, an email with the subject, "HR meeting, immediate attendance required." I clicked it open. "Evelyn, please report to HR immediately. This is a mandatory meeting." I frowned. Robert wouldn't go down without a fight. I grabbed my notebook and made my way to the HR office. The receptionist barely made eye contact before gesturing towards the glass-walled room in the back. Inside, Denise from HR sat at the conference table, looking uncomfortable. Across from her, Robert. He didn't look smug anymore. No, this was a cornered animal trying to claw its way out. Denise cleared her throat. "Evelyn, have a seat." I did. Robert leaned forward, fake concern dripping from his voice. "Evelyn, I really hoped we wouldn't have to do this, but I need to bring up a very serious issue." I raised an eyebrow. He sighed dramatically. "The firm has been reviewing some of your recent communications, and we have reason to believe you violated corporate confidentiality by discussing internal business matters with an external client." I blinked. Oh, this was the play. Denise glanced at me, then at Robert. Robert had brought this concern to them this morning. Of course he did, trying to flip the narrative, trying to paint me as the problem so he could salvage his career. I tilted my head. "And what specific confidential business matters are we talking about?" Robert folded his hands on the table. "The emails you sent regarding the Super Bowl tickets. That was an internal issue, Evelyn, and you took it directly to a client." I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "Right, so you're saying that a gift meant for me personally, which was then stolen, is now considered an internal business matter?" Denise flinched at the word stolen. Robert's jaw twitched. "I wouldn't call it stolen." I cut him off. "Really? Because the client did in front of everyone." Silence. I leaned back. "This isn't about confidentiality. This is about you getting caught, and now you're throwing a tantrum because there were consequences." Denise let out a careful breath. "Robert, I understand your concern, but after reviewing the situation, I don't see any actual policy violation on Evelyn's part." His head snapped toward her. "Excuse me?" She glanced down at her notes. "The client was the original sender of the gift. He had the right to ask about it. Evelyn did not disclose private company strategy, financials, or trade secrets, only the status of something that was personally hers. Robert's face darkened. So that's it? You're just gonna let her get away with it? Denise straightened in her chair. Robert, let's be clear. You're the one under investigation, not Evelyn. The words hit him like a slap. He started to protest, but Denise cut him off. The expense reports are being reviewed. The client has formally withdrawn their partnership with you, and now, after everything, you're trying to retaliate against an employee who was just promoted by the company? Robert had nothing left, nothing to say, nothing to fight with. He had lost. Denise's side had won. Standing, Denise said, Robert, I need you to leave the room. Evelyn, you're free to go. I gathered my things, not even looking at him as I stood and walked out, and by the time I reached my desk, an email had already gone out. Effective immediately, Robert Fowler is no longer with the firm. We wish him the best in his future endeavors. I read it twice, just to be sure, and then, for the first time all day, I let myself smile. Robert was gone, and I had won. But the best part was that this wasn't just a victory for me. It was a warning to every arrogant, entitled boss out there. Never underestimate the people you think are beneath you, because they might be the ones who bring you down. The office was strangely quiet after Robert's abrupt departure. People were talking, of course, whispers in the hallways, stolen glances in the break room, but no one dared say anything out loud. The weight of what had just happened was too heavy. A senior partner had been taken down in front of everyone, not by another executive, not by another man in a suit, but by me. I sat at my desk rereading the company-wide email announcing Robert's termination. His name was already scrubbed from the directory, his office locked, his belongings packed by HR. It was like he had never existed. That should have been enough, but there was still one more thing to do. I pulled out my phone and called my client. He picked up on the first ring. Evelyn, he said, amusement laced in his voice. I assume you've heard the news. I have, I replied lightly. Figured I owed you a thank you. He laughed. Don't thank me. Robert did this to himself. You just handed him the rope. I smirked. I appreciate you handling things so publicly. There was a pause, and when he spoke again, his tone shifted. Tell me something, Evelyn. Are you happy staying where you are? That made me hesitate. What do you mean? Let's be honest, he said casually. You were the one doing the work. You built this account. The firm promoted you because they had to, not because they wanted to. And Robert's departure, that was your doing. I leaned back, absorbing his words. I'll be honest with you, he continued. I don't like your firm. I tolerated it because I liked working with you. I blinked. Oh, he chuckled. So let me make this simple. I want you to come work for me. My heart skipped. You've already proven yourself, he said smoothly. You're sharp, strategic, and you don't let people walk all over you. That's exactly who I want leading my business strategy team. He let the silence stretch. And I'll double whatever your firm is paying you. I nearly dropped my phone. Double, not a raise, not a bump. Double my salary. I swallowed. That's a big offer. He laughed. It is, and it's fair. I hesitated. Everything was happening so fast. I had just gotten promoted. Was I really about to walk away? Then I thought about the years of being undervalued, the ideas taken and repackaged by men like Robert, the fact that my promotion only came because a scandal forced their hand. Did I owe them anything? No. A slow smile spread across my face. Send me the offer, I said. I think I'm ready for something better. By the next morning, my resignation letter was printed and signed. I walked through the office with my head held high, ignoring the surprised whispers and not-so-subtle looks of admiration. Denise from HR looked genuinely shocked when I handed her the letter. You're leaving? She asked. I nodded. Got an offer I couldn't refuse. She glanced at the salary and let out a low whistle. Damn, I can't blame you. As I packed my things, coworkers stopped by, some stunned, others not surprised at all. Then, just as I was about to leave, I got one last message from an unknown number. Evelyn Fowler, enjoy your little victory. You just got lucky. I stared at it for a moment before replying. Luck had nothing to do with it.
And with that, I walked out for the last time. A year later, I stood in my corner office overlooking the city skyline. My name was on the door, my team respected me, my salary was more than I'd ever imagined, and best of all, I was finally working for people who valued me. An industry alert popped up on my phone. Former executive Robert Fowler files lawsuit against former firm, claims wrongful termination. I laughed. He was still fighting a battle he had already lost. I leaned back in my chair. Robert had spent years stealing credit, stepping on people, taking what wasn't his, and in the end, he lost everything. I, on the other hand, gained everything, and that was the sweetest revenge.